Hi friends, I'm coming to you live from my car. I'm on the way home from work. I'm gonna be talking today about the beginning of my content journey. I'm very early into Dream Veggies, but I'm also not a stranger to video production, content creation, social media, all of that. In my experience, completing a 30-day series on YouTube Shorts and TikTok, I have learned so much already. I've also made sure to be very consistent and very, very intentional with my branding and the videos that I'm putting out for the specific audience I'm trying to capture. So I just said a lot. All I'm really trying to say, if I could just summarize all of that into one piece of advice, and I think I said this on my, the 30th day that my 30th YouTube short, my last day of my 30-day series, the series was titled Building Your Dream Life in 30 Days. And so it was all about, how do you create your dream life out of thin air as a working parent, as a parent who feels stressed, stretched, pressed? We've got a lot going on. And so how are we able to start these content creation businesses from scratch? And like I said, I'm no stranger to content creation, but with Dream Veggies, I wanted to be super, super clear on who my audience was and why I was doing this and the type of content that I was going to create. So, how I did this was, I just realized my steering wheel is like right in front of my face, but I'm sorry guys, this is what I'm doing. So how I did that, it was a 4-step process. I'm going to explain the 4 steps because I think that this was so instrumental in really getting me to that place where I felt comfortable just making a video on the fly, because I knew who my audience was, why I was doing this, what it was all for, and what I pictured for my channel and for myself. So anyway, these are the 4 steps. So your first step is finding your why. It seems simple enough. Of course, it's not. A lot of people say, I want to, what's your reason for creating a channel? I want to create a channel because, I want to make some money. I want to create a channel because I hate my job. I want, you don't get into the meat of what you're trying to say when you say something like that. So, I will give you an example. For me, my why is, and has always been since, 7 years ago, my kids, which is hence why, Dream Veggies has such a strong root in millennial parenting, because it's something I know a lot about, right? So my why is my children. I want what is absolute best for them. If you're a fellow parent, you understand. I want the world for them. Not only that, but I want to be present for them. I don't want to be at a job where I am gone all of the daylight hours and I get to have a couple hours with my kids at night. So for me, one of the biggest whys was my kids. So once you have a really solid idea of why you're doing this, I want to be present for my kids. I want to contribute to, teaching about women's health, because women's, reproductive health is very important to me, or whatever. You've got your foundation, which is, I would call it like your nonprofit. This is your reason for doing everything that you do, regardless of whether you make money doing it or not, right? So then your second step then becomes, let's really look at what are some values that people will typically say that they live their lives by. It could be family, it could be compassion, it could be financial freedom, it could be, there's so many, there are a lot of values out there to choose from. And, if you work in corporate and you are a working parent like I am, you understand that every company has their core values. It could be care or integrity. So find your core values. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is to look at that why and translate it to your core values. So if my why is that I want to be present for my kids and I don't want to have to rely on a job where I'm in an office and I can't be present for my kids, then maybe my whys might be my values might be something like financial freedom, family, and time freedom. It could be as simple as that. So choose 5 values that really resonate with your perspective on why you want to make this change. And again, I'm using content creation, but you can do this for anything. I mean, if your dream life is to sail across the Pacific Ocean, just like that creator Sailing with Phoenix, who I'm obsessed with right now, if your why is that you want to be free and be sailing across the ocean and living an adventurous life, then maybe your values, that could be like, you can do these exercises for any kind of change you want to make in your life. And you might be thinking like, well, okay, if I know I want to sail the Pacific to, with my cat because I want to quit my job, what's the point of doing all of this extra work? I've started a lot of YouTube channels and a lot of, content creation journeys. And my biggest hurdle has always been finding my audience and finding what I need to be talking about. The reason why it's so hard is because you know what you want to do, but how are you providing value to others? How are you finding the community of people who also believe in what you believe? It's a lot harder if you don't really have that understood. Okay, so we found our why. We have identified 5 to even 10 values that we feel really resonate with our why. The third step is to look at your current life. This may be very easy for some of you and very difficult for others. You're going to look at your current life and you're going to find those things that are happening in your life, those people in your life, those items you have in your life that are misaligned with your why and your values. For me, it is very simple. I work at a 9-to-5 where I've got to be in office 3 days a week. Now, granted, hybrid schedule is still a blessing compared to other jobs I've had. But for me, I've got to find a way to be home and present with my kids more often. My kids are in school 7 hours a day and then they go straight to dance or t-ball. They have their practices. They are spending a lot of time away from the home. So maybe homeschooling is a topic that I'm really passionate about because, I believe in keeping kids with their parents as much as they possibly can during those informative, young years. So looking at my current job and thinking, oh my gosh, my 9-to-5 is so misaligned with my why, my values, and what I see for myself going forward. If I were to live in my highest, most aligned self, that 9-to-5 doesn't fit. So, okay, we've identified some areas where we need to realign, you know what I'm saying? So we've got those items. And the last step is putting it all together into almost a mantra. I would call it a mantra, where you're telling yourself, I am letting go of step 3, whatever you said in step 3, to create a life that is more aligned with my values, such as step 2, and you're just going backwards in the steps. I'm aligning with my values of X, Y, and Z so that I can live for, and then step 1, what was your why? So you started everything from your why and you're ending it with your why, because it is the most important part. But all of these pieces together form your specific message to your niche audience. And you might think that your topic isn't very niche at all. I don't think it has to be niche or broad. I think really the point is that you're very specific about who your audience is. So that audience could be 500 people or it could be 500,000 people, but you need to understand that what messages you're trying to get across, and you can't do that unless you truly understand what you're trying to say. So I am here as a millennial parent who is very aware of how much time I'm spending away from my kids. I am starting a content creation journey to hopefully align with my values in a way that I can have more flexible time and some financial freedom so I can live to be present with my family and to do things that are more aligned with my own why. So that's just an example, and I went a little more specific with mine, but just to work through the exercise, this is why I think it's so important. So I've created this guide. Basically everything I just spoke about, I have created a PDF free guide on that kind of goes through these steps, and you can work through this exercise yourself. I think it's super helpful if you are someone who and you don't have to be like a working millennial parent trying to do content. It doesn't have to be that. But if you are someone who is stuck and you want to get out and you don't know where to start, if you're at the beginning phase, or if you're just someone who's at the beginning of starting a journey and you're feeling like, well, I took the first step, but where do I go from here? If you walk forward on a path that you are always aligned with your values, you always know where you're going, because there are 5 million different ways you can go. But if you know where you're headed, because you know what your most highest self or your most aligned self looks like, or what they value, what they cherish, and you always take a step toward that, you are always moving toward your dream life. So hopefully this wasn't too long. I really hope that this provided some value for everybody who watches. And it's been super valuable to me. I'm going to link the free guide down below. I do feel like it's super valuable information to have if you're at the start of your journey and you really want that mantra that you can walk forward with every single day. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Have a wonderful day.